Fear and fascination intertwine in the ocean's depths, where formidable predators like great white sharks and lightning-fast barracudas roam. Encounter these sea creatures' awe-inspiring and deadly behaviors, alongside the venomous box jellyfish and elusive giant squid. Explore 6 real-life encounters that showcase the raw power and mystery of the ocean's most fearsome inhabitants. In the summer of 2001, a group of friends decided to take a break from their busy lives and head to the coast of California for a much-needed surfing trip. They chose a secluded beach near a town called Monterey Bay. Known for its pristine waters and towering waves, Monterey Bay was a hidden gem among surfers. The date was June 15, 2001, and the bright sun shone in the clear blue sky. The group consisted of 5 close friends who had known each other since college: Mark Turner, a software engineer; Lisa Thompson, a nurse; Jake Harris, a carpenter; Alexa Collins, a teacher; and Kevin Baker, a photographer. They had planned this trip for months, eager to escape their daily routines and enjoy the thrill of surfing together. The morning started perfectly. They woke up early, excited to hit the waves. They packed their surfboards, sunscreen, and snacks and headed to the beach. The crashing waves and the salty breeze filled the air as they unloaded their gear and camped on the sand. Monterey Bay was known for its diverse marine life, including seals, dolphins, and occasionally great white sharks. These apex predators were often spotted off the coast, patrolling the deep waters for prey. The friends were aware of the risks but felt confident in their abilities to stay safe. They had surfed in these waters many times before without any issues. By mid-morning, they were in the water, riding the waves and laughing together. The ocean was their playground, and they felt free and alive. Kevin took his camera out to capture the moments, snapping pictures of his friends as they carved through the waves. As noon approached, they decided to take a break and have lunch. They sat on the beach, enjoying sandwiches and drinks, talking about their lives, and reminiscing about old times. The atmosphere was relaxed and happy, and their bond was palpable. After lunch, they returned to the water, eager to make the most of their day. The waves were perfect, and they had the time of their lives. The sun began to dip lower in the sky, casting a golden glow over the water. Suddenly, the idyllic scene was shattered. Mark, paddling farther out than the rest, disappeared beneath the waves without a sound. Panic struck the group as they realized what had happened. They knew immediately that it was a shark, and their worst fears were confirmed when they saw the massive dorsal fin slicing through the water. Mark resurfaced, struggling to stay afloat. Blood stained the water around him, and the sight was horrifying. The great white shark was relentless, circling him with deadly intent. The friends screamed in terror, urging Mark to swim towards them, but the shark struck again, dragging him under. The group watched in helpless horror as the shark's powerful jaws clamped down on Mark's leg, tearing into flesh and bone. The water churned with blood, and the waves muffled Mark's cries of pain. The shark's eyes were cold and unfeeling, a predator at the top of the food chain. Lisa, the nurse, was the first to react. She paddled furiously towards Mark, driven by a desperate need to save her friend. Jake and Kevin followed, trying to create a distraction to draw the shark's attention away from Mark. Alexa stayed closer to shore, ready to call for help if needed. The shark seemed almost toying with them, circling and diving deep before reappearing. Lisa reached Mark and grabbed his arm, pulling him towards her. Jake and Kevin splashed and shouted, trying to confuse the shark. It was a terrifying game of life and death, and every second felt like an eternity. They reached the shallower water, where the shark finally gave up the chase. Mark was barely conscious, his leg a mangled mess. Blood poured from his wounds, staining the sand as they dragged him to shore. Lisa immediately began first aid, using her medical training to stabilize him as best she could. The next few hours were a blur. An ambulance arrived, and Mark was rushed to the hospital. The friends followed, their hearts heavy with fear and guilt. They had come to Monterey Bay for fun and adventure, and now they were faced with the brutal reality of a shark attack. At the hospital, Mark underwent emergency surgery. The doctors did everything they could to save his leg, but the damage was too severe. Mark survived, but his life was forever changed. He would never surf again, and the trauma of the attack would haunt him and his friends for years to come. The incident left a deep scar on all of them. They had faced the raw power of nature and barely escaped with their lives. The beach at Monterey Bay, once a place of joy and freedom, became a reminder of their brush with death. In the remote wetlands of northern Australia, a wildlife photographer named Thomas Reeves embarked on a journey to capture the perfect shot of a saltwater crocodile. The date was August 12, 2003, and Thomas had traveled to Arnhem Land, a secluded area known for its dense mangroves and teeming wildlife. This place was famous for its large population of saltwater crocodiles and apex predators that ruled the waters with fearsome efficiency. Thomas was an experienced photographer driven by a passion for capturing the raw beauty of nature. He had spent years photographing various wildlife across the globe, but the saltwater crocodile was a subject that had always eluded him. These ancient reptiles, which could grow up to 7 meters long, were known for their stealth and power. Arnhem Land was one of the few places where these giants were frequently spotted, and Thomas was determined to get his shot. The day began with Thomas preparing his gear. He packed his camera, lenses, and a sturdy tripod, ensuring everything was waterproof. The wetlands were humid, and the air was thick with the scent of mud and vegetation. As the sun rose, casting a golden glow over the marshes, Thomas set out in his small boat, navigating the winding waterways. The area was alive with sounds, the calls of birds, the rustling of leaves, and the distant splash of fish breaking the surface. Thomas paddled more profoundly into the marshes, his eyes scanning the water for any signs of movement. Saltwater crocodiles were masters of camouflage, often lying in wait beneath the surface, only their eyes and nostrils visible. As he ventured further, Thomas spotted several smaller crocodiles basking on the banks, their scaly bodies blending with the mud. He took a few shots, but they differed from what he sought. He wanted to capture the true essence of these predators in their natural habitat. The hours passed and the heat intensified. Thomas took a break to drink water and review his shots. He knew the risks of being in such a remote and dangerous place, but his determination overshadowed his fear. He continued deeper into the wetlands, unaware that he was being watched. Saltwater crocodiles were known for their intelligence and patience. They could remain motionless for hours, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. As Thomas moved through their territory, one enormous crocodile took an interest in him. This ancient predator, nearly 6 meters long, had ruled these waters for decades. Thomas, oblivious to the danger, focused on his photography. He maneuvered his boat close to the water's edge, hoping to get a shot of a crocodile slipping into the water. The marshes were eerily quiet and unease began to creep over him. He brushed it off, attributing it to the isolation and intensity of his quest. As Thomas adjusted his camera for a close-up shot, a sudden movement caught his eye. The massive crocodile, silently stalking him, lunged out of the water with astonishing speed. Its powerful jaws clamped down on the side of the boat, splintering wood and sending Thomas tumbling into the murky water. Panic surged through Thomas as he struggled to stay afloat. The crocodile's eyes, cold and unfeeling, locked onto him. It was a terrifying game of survival, and Thomas knew he was outmatched. The crocodile's tail thrashed, creating waves that pulled him closer to its deadly grip. The predator struck again, this time seizing Thomas's leg. Pain shot through him as the crocodile's teeth sank into his flesh, tearing through muscle and bone. The water around them turned red as Thomas fought desperately to free himself. His heart pounded, and his mind raced with fear and adrenaline. Using every ounce of strength, Thomas kicked at the crocodile's snout, momentarily loosening its grip. He scrambled towards the boat, his injured leg dragging behind him. The crocodile was relentless, following him with a terrifying determination. Thomas reached the boat, pulling himself aboard as the crocodile surged forward again. The ship rocked violently, and Thomas grabbed a paddle, using it to fend off the predator. Each strike against the crocodile's head echoed with a sickening thud. The predator, though persistent, eventually retreated, slipping back into the depths. Breathing heavily, Thomas assessed his injuries. His leg was a mess of torn flesh and exposed bone. The pain was excruciating, but he knew he had to get back to shore. Using the paddle, he steered the damaged boat through the waterways, his vision blurring from blood loss and shock. Hours seemed like days as Thomas navigated the treacherous path back to safety. His strength waned, and darkness began to close in. Just as he felt he could go no further, he saw the outline of the shore. Mustering the last energy, he paddled towards it, collapsing onto the muddy bank. Thomas lay there, barely conscious, until a group of local fishermen found him. They acted quickly, bandaging his wounds and rushing him to the nearest hospital. The journey was long and painful, but Thomas's will to survive kept him going. At the hospital, doctors worked tirelessly to save his leg. The damage was severe, and it took multiple surgeries to stabilize him. Thomas remained in critical condition for days, hovering between life and death. News of the attack spread quickly, and the incident became a stark reminder of the dangers lurking in the wild. Thomas's harrowing experience highlighted the sheer power and unpredictability of nature. While he survived, the encounter left deep physical and emotional scars. Thomas never returned to Arnhem Land, but the memory of that day in 2003 stayed with him. His passion for wildlife photography remained, but he approached it with a newfound respect for the creatures he sought to capture. The wetlands of northern Australia, with their hidden predators and untamed beauty, symbolized his greatest challenge and will to survive. In the summer of 2005, the Anderson family embarked on a whale-watching expedition in the icy waters of Alaska. They had always dreamed of seeing orcas up close, so they chose a remote place called Resurrections Bay. Known for its rich marine life, Resurrections Bay has attracted enthusiasts worldwide. The date was June 22, 2005, and the family was eager to witness the majestic creatures in their natural habitat. The Andersons consisted of John, a marine biologist, his wife Emily, a schoolteacher, and their two children, Anders and Sarah, aged 12 and 9 respectively. They had planned this trip for months, hoping to create lasting memories. The day began with the family boarding a small charter boat captained by an experienced guide named Orson. The sky was clear and the crisp air filled them with excitement. As they set off, Orson shared information about the orcas, also known as killer whales. Orcas were apex predators known for their intelligence and complex social structures. These mammals could grow up to 8 meters long and were often seen hunting in pods. The waters around Resurrections Bay were a prime location for spotting orcas, especially during the summer months when they were most active. The boat navigated through the calm waters, the engine humming softly. The Andersons marveled at the stunning scenery, towering glaciers, rugged coastlines, and the endless expanse of the ocean. They were surrounded by nature's beauty, and the anticipation of seeing orcas made the experience even more thrilling. After a few hours, they spotted their first pod. The orcas moved gracefully through the water, their dorsal fins slicing through the surface. Orson slowed the boat, allowing the family to observe the whales. Anders and Sarah leaned over the railing, wide-eyed with wonder. John clicked away with his camera, capturing every moment. The pod consisted of several orcas, including a few calves. The family watched in awe as the whales communicated with clicks and whistles, their black and white bodies glistening in the sun. Emily noted how the orcas seemed almost playful, breaching and slapping their tails against the water. As the boat drifted closer, the orcas became more curious. One colossal male approached the ship, its eye peering above the waterline. The Andersons felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. They knew these animals were wild and unpredictable, but the encounter felt magical. Orson explained how orcas were known to exhibit various hunting techniques, often coordinating their efforts to catch prey. They hunted seals, fish, and even more giant whales, using their intelligence and teamwork to their advantage. The family listened intently, fascinated by the complexity of orca behavior. The sun began to dip lower in the sky, casting a golden hue over the water. The Andersons decided to head back to shore, satisfied with their incredible experience. They had seen the majestic orcas up close and learned so much about these fantastic creatures. Little did they know their adventure was about to take a terrifying turn. The water suddenly grew choppy as the boat returned to Resurrections Bay. The calm sea turned turbulent and waves began to rock the boat. The Andersons held on tightly, their excitement giving way to unease. Without warning, a powerful force struck the ship's side, causing it to capsize. The family was thrown into the freezing water, the shock of the cold taking their breath away. They struggled to stay afloat, clinging to pieces of the overturned boat. Panic set in as they realized they were not alone. The pod of orcas, which had seemed so playful earlier, now circled them with an eerie precision. John tried to keep his family together, but the icy water and powerful currents made it difficult. The orcas began to close in, their sleek bodies moving with calculated intent. The largest male, who had approached the boat earlier, led the attack. The orcas nudged and bumped the family, testing their reactions. The orcas' intelligence was on full display as they coordinated their movements. One of them grabbed Anders's life jacket, pulling him under for a terrifying moment before releasing him. Emily screamed, her voice lost in the roar of the ocean. John tried to reach his son, but another orca blocked his path, its massive body quickly cutting through the water. Sarah clung to her mother, tears streaming down her face. The family was trapped in a deadly situation, and the orcas seemed to revel in their fear. The male orca struck again, dragging John under the surface. He fought to break free, his lungs burning as he struggled for air. The orca released him momentarily, only to circle back for another attack. Emily managed to pull Anders to her, holding him close as the orcas continued their assault. She knew they had to get out of the water, but the shore was too far, and the boat was beyond repair. The cold seeped into their bones, and exhaustion began to set in. The orcas' attacks grew more aggressive. One of them rammed into Emily, knocking her head against a piece of debris. Her vision blurred, and she felt her grip on Anders slipping. John, battered and bleeding, fought his way back to his family. He grabbed Sarah, who was shivering uncontrollably, and tried to signal for help, but there was no one in sight. Desperation set in as the orcas circled them relentlessly, each passing moment heightening the family's terror. When all hope seemed lost, a larger boat appeared on the horizon. The orcas, sensing the arrival of humans, began to retreat. The family's ordeal was far from over, but the immediate danger had passed. The boat's crew pulled them from the water, wrapping them in blankets and offering words of comfort. The Andersons were taken to the nearest hospital, where they were treated for hypothermia and their injuries. The experience left them traumatized, their dreams of a perfect whale-watching trip shattered by the brutal reality of nature's power. The orcas had shown them a side of the animal kingdom that few ever see, a reminder that humans are not always at the top of the food chain in the wild. The memory of that day in 2005 would haunt the Andersons forever. They had faced death in the icy waters of Alaska and lived to tell the tale. With their intelligence and power, the orcas had played a deadly game, and the family's survival was nothing short of a miracle. The waters of Resurrections Bay, once a place of wonder, would forever be marked by their harrowing encounter. In the summer of 2007, a deep-sea exploration team embarked on a mission to the Mariana Trench, the deepest part of the world's oceans. Their destination was the Challenger Deep, located in the western Pacific Ocean. The date was August 14, 2007, and the team was excited about the adventure ahead. They used a state-of-the-art Abyss Explorer submersible to dive into the unknown depths. The team consisted of 4 members: Dr. Henry Klein, a marine biologist; Emma Hayes, an oceanographer; Alex Foster, a robotics engineer; and Michael Burns, the submersible pilot. They had been preparing for this expedition for months, conducting rigorous tests and simulations. The goal was to explore the uncharted territories of the deep ocean and document any new species they might encounter. The day began with the team boarding the research vessel Ocean Seeker. The sun was rising, casting a warm glow over the endless expanse of the ocean. The crew was in high spirits as they conducted final checks on the Abyss Explorer. The submersible was equipped with advanced cameras, robotic arms, and a reinforced hull to withstand the immense pressure of the deep sea. As they descended into the depths, the light from the surface gradually faded, giving way to complete darkness. The team marveled at the eerie beauty of the deep ocean, illuminated only by the submersible's powerful lights. Strange and fascinating creatures swam past their windows, some glowing with bioluminescence. Dr. Klein was particularly excited about the possibility of encountering a giant squid. These elusive creatures were rarely seen and mostly known from the remains found in whale stomachs or washed ashore. Giant squids could grow up to 12 meters long and were believed to inhabit the deep ocean trenches. The Mariana Trench was one of the few places where such a sighting might be possible. Hours passed as they continued their descent. The submersible's sensors picked up unusual readings, indicating the presence of large, unidentified objects. The team's excitement grew as they approached the Challenger deep. Emma Hayes monitored the data closely, hoping for a breakthrough discovery. Suddenly, the submersible's lights illuminated a massive, shadowy figure. The team gasped in awe, realizing they were looking at a colossal giant squid. Its enormous eyes reflected the light, and its long, undulating tentacles moved gracefully through the water. The creature seemed almost otherworldly, a true giant of the deep. Dr. Klein and Emma quickly began documenting the encounter, capturing footage and taking notes. Alex controlled the robotic arms, trying to collect samples without disturbing the creature. Michael skillfully maneuvered the submersible, ensuring they maintained a safe distance. The giant squid appeared curious, approaching the submersible and examining it with its tentacles. The team watched in amazement, feeling a mixture of excitement and trepidation. This was a once-in-a-lifetime encounter, and they knew they were witnessing something extraordinary. Without warning, the giant squid's behavior changed. Its tentacles, gently exploring the submersible, suddenly wrapped around the vessel with alarming force. The Abyss Explorer shook violently as the creature's powerful limbs constricted around it. The team was thrown into chaos, their excitement turning into fear. Michael struggled to maintain control of the submersible as the squid's grip tightened. The pressure gauges spiked, and alarms blared throughout the cabin. The creature's enormous suction cups adhered to the hull, creating a loud noise as they peeled away the protective layers. Dr. Klein and Emma clung to their seats, their eyes wide with terror. Alex frantically operated the robotic arms, trying to fend off the squid, but the creature's strength was overwhelming. The submersible's lights flickered, and the instruments began to malfunction. The giant squid pulled the Abyss Explorer deeper into the trench, the pressure outside increasing with each meter. The hull groaned under the strain, and cracks began to form in the reinforced glass. The team's situation grew dire as the squid's relentless assault continued. Michael's heart pounded as he fought to stabilize the submersible. He activated the emergency ascent, hoping to escape the creature's grasp. The engines roared to life, but the squid's hold was too strong. The submersible lurched violently, and the hull began to buckle. The creature's sharp and menacing beak loomed closer. It struck the hull with a force that sent shockwaves through the vessel. The team screamed in terror as water began to seep through the cracks. Their minds raced with the grim realization that they might not survive this encounter. Dr. Klein shouted instructions, urging everyone to don their emergency gear. They struggled to secure their helmets and oxygen tanks as the submersible continued to descend. The water level rose rapidly, and the cabin temperature dropped. The deep ocean's crushing pressure threatened to implode the vessel at any moment. When all hope seemed lost, Michael executed a daring maneuver. He released air from the submersible's ballast tanks, creating a sudden upward thrust. The force jolted the Abyss Explorer, momentarily causing the giant squid to loosen its grip. Seizing the opportunity, Michael activated the full power of the ascent engines. The submersible shot upwards, breaking free from the squid's tentacles. The creature thrashed in the water, its limbs flailing in frustration. The team held their breath, praying the hull would hold as they ascended rapidly. The ascent was difficult, but the submersible finally broke the surface. The team gasped for air, their bodies aching from the ordeal. The research vessel Ocean Seeker quickly moved to their location, and the crew pulled the battered Abyss Explorer from the water. The team was rushed to the ship's medical bay, where they were treated for hypothermia and shock. The encounter had left them physically and emotionally scarred, but they had survived. The footage and data they had collected were invaluable, documenting a rare and terrifying encounter with one of the ocean's most elusive giants. The Mariana Trench remained an unforgiving realm with its dark and mysterious depths. The team's experience was a stark reminder of the dangers lurking in the deep ocean. They had ventured into the unknown and emerged with a story that would haunt them forever. The giant squid, a symbol of the ocean's untamed power, had tested their limits and pushed them to the brink of survival. In the summer of 2009, a scuba diving instructor named Valerie Finn led a group of enthusiastic divers on an expedition to a vibrant coral reef off the coast of Punta Cana in the Caribbean. The date was June 18, 2009, and the group was eager to explore the underwater paradise. Punta Cana, located in the Dominican Republic, was renowned for its stunning coral formations and diverse marine life. The group consisted of Valerie, an experienced diver, Martin, a software engineer, Rachel, a school teacher, Ben, a photographer, and Tina, a medical student. They had all come together for this dive, excited to see the underwater wonders. Valerie had briefed them thoroughly, emphasizing safety and the importance of staying calm underwater. The day started with the group boarding a small boat to the dive site. The sun shone, and the water was a clear, inviting blue. The colors beneath the surface revealed themselves as they approached the reef. Brilliant corals in red, orange, and purple shades swaying gently with the current. The group donned their diving gear, checked their oxygen tanks, and slipped into the water individually. Valerie led the group through the maze of coral formations. Schools of colorful fish darted around them, and they spotted a variety of marine life, including sea turtles and stingrays. The underwater world was teeming with life, and the divers were mesmerized by the beauty surrounding them. Barracudas were common in these waters. These sleek, predatory fish were known for their speed and sharp teeth. They often hunted in schools, using their keen eyesight to spot prey. While barracudas were usually not aggressive towards humans, their curiosity and sharp teeth could be dangerous if provoked. Valerie had encountered barracudas before and knew how to handle their presence. She had briefed the group about the fish, advising them to avoid making sudden movements and to keep their dive gear from reflecting too much light, which could attract the barracudas. The dive progressed smoothly. The group moved slowly and steadily, taking in the sights and marveling at the reef's beauty. Ben took pictures with his underwater camera, capturing the stunning scenery and the vibrant marine life. Rachel and Tina pointed out different fish species to each other, and their excitement was evident even through their masks. As they ventured deeper into the reef, Valerie noticed a group of barracudas in the distance. She signaled to the group to remain calm and stay close together. The barracudas seemed curious but kept their distance. Valerie hoped they would pass by without incident. The sunlight filtering through the water created a serene and magical atmosphere. The divers felt like they were in another world, far removed from the worries of their everyday lives. The peacefulness of the underwater environment was a stark contrast to the impending danger they were about to face. As the group continued their dive, the school of barracudas began to close in. The shiny dive gear and the camera's flash had caught their attention. Valerie's heart raced as she realized the situation was becoming dangerous. The barracudas circled the group, their sleek bodies moving with alarming speed. Valerie motioned for the group to stay calm and keep together. Panic could make the situation worse. She used her knowledge and experience to lead the group away from the barracudas, but the fish were persistent, their eyes fixed on the divers. Suddenly, one barracuda darted forward, striking at Martin's fin. He jerked his leg instinctively, and the movement agitated the fish even more. The water around them erupted into chaos as the barracudas launched their attack. The predators were swift and relentless. Their sharp teeth flashed as they struck the divers' gear and limbs. Valerie fought to maintain control, guiding the group towards a rocky outcrop that might offer some protection. She felt a sharp pain in her arm as one of the barracudas bit into her wetsuit, tearing through the material and grazing her skin. Ben tried to fend off the barracudas with his camera, using it as a makeshift shield. Rachel and Tina clung to each other, their eyes wide with fear. Martin, bleeding from a deep gash on his leg, struggled to swim, his movements slowing as blood clouded the water. Valerie reached the rocky outcrop and motioned for the others to follow. They pressed against the rocks, trying to present a smaller target. The barracudas circled them, striking sporadically. Valerie used her dive knife to fend off the closest attackers, slashing at the water to keep them at bay. Time seemed to stretch endlessly as the group huddled together, their breaths rapid and panicked. The barracudas showed no signs of retreating, their aggression fueled by the scent of blood in the water. Valerie knew they could only stay in this position for a short time. They needed to find a way to escape and return to the boat. Valerie summoned courage and signaled the group to prepare for a swift descent. They would need to rise to the surface quickly but carefully, avoiding decompression sickness. She led the way, kicking vigorously and ignoring the pain in her arm. The group followed, their eyes fixed on the shimmering light above. The barracudas pursued them, but the divers' rapid ascent confused the fish. Valerie kept the group moving, urging them to stay close. As they neared the surface, the barracudas finally began to lose interest, breaking off their attack and disappearing into the depths. The divers broke through the surface, gasping for air and scrambling onto the boat. The crew helped them aboard, wrapping them in towels and checking their injuries. Martin's leg was bleeding heavily and Valerie's arm throbbed with pain. They were shaken but alive. The boat sped back to shore and the injured were rushed to the nearest medical facility. The attack had left the group traumatized, their dream dive turning into a nightmare. Valerie's quick thinking and experience had saved their lives, but the memory of the fierce attack would haunt them all. The Caribbean waters, once a place of beauty and wonder, now held a darker memory for the group. They had witnessed the raw power of nature and survived a terrifying encounter with one of its deadliest predators. In the summer of 2011, a group of tourists embarked on a memorable holiday to the picturesque beaches of Thailand. On July 25, 2011, they arrived at the renowned Patong Beach in Phuket. Famous for its breathtaking sunsets and crystal-clear waters, Patong Beach was a beloved destination for vacationers. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the serene bay, the tourists eagerly prepared for a refreshing late-afternoon swim. Among the tourists were David, a travel blogger, Jessica, a nurse, Sam, a university student, and Karen, a teacher. They had met at the resort and quickly bonded over their love for the ocean. They decided to swim together, eager to enjoy the last moments of daylight in the refreshing water. As they splashed and laughed, Tom, the lifeguard on duty, watched from his post. Tom was a seasoned lifeguard, aware of the various marine creatures that inhabited these waters. Box jellyfish, in particular, frequent the area during certain times of the year. These translucent creatures were almost invisible in the water and possessed venom that could cause extreme pain, paralysis, and even death. Tom had spent the day watching the swimmers, ensuring their safety. The beach was crowded with families, couples, and solo travelers enjoying the serene environment. The water was calm and there were no signs of immediate danger. The tourists, unaware of the potential threat, continued their swim. The bay was picturesque, with palm trees swaying gently in the breeze and the sound of waves lapping against the shore. The sunset painted the sky in hues of orange and pink, creating a perfect backdrop for their holiday. Jessica floated on her back, taking in the beauty around her. David and Karen engaged in a playful splash fight while Sam explored the shallows, searching for interesting shells. The atmosphere was relaxed and joyful, a perfect end to a beautiful day. Box jellyfish, however, had silently drifted into the bay. With their belt-shaped bodies and long, trailing tentacles, these creatures were almost impossible to spot, especially in the dimming light. The tourists had no idea they were swimming into a potentially deadly situation. The water began to cool as the sun dipped below the horizon, and the tourists decided to head back to shore. They swam leisurely, enjoying the soothing embrace of the ocean. The beach emptied as others packed their belongings and left for the day. Tom continued his watch, unaware of the jellyfish swarm approaching the swimmers. He noticed the group making their way back and felt a sense of relief that the day had passed without incident. But just as he prepared to call it a day, a piercing scream shattered the calm. The scream came from Jessica. She had felt a sharp, burning pain shoot through her leg, causing her to thrash in the water. The box jellyfish's tentacles had wrapped around her, injecting venom that quickly paralyzed her muscles. Panic spread through the group as they realized something was wrong. David and Karen rushed to help Jessica but felt the excruciating stings as they approached. The water erupted into chaos as the jellyfish swarmed, their nearly invisible bodies making them difficult to avoid. Still in the shallows, Sam saw his friends struggling and swam towards them, only to be stung himself. Tom sprang into action. He grabbed his rescue board and sprinted into the water, aware that every second counted. The venom from box jellyfish could be deadly if not treated quickly. As he paddled out, he shouted for assistance, hoping to alert anyone nearby to the emergency. Jessica's body was becoming numb, her limbs heavy and unresponsive. David managed to grab her arm, but the pain from his stings made it hard to hold on. Karen and Sam struggled to stay afloat, their movements sluggish and uncoordinated. Tom reached out to the group and assessed the situation. He first pulled Jessica onto his rescue board, her pale face showing signs of severe shock. He then instructed David to hold on to the side while he assisted Karen and Sam. The jellyfish continued to sting, their tentacles trailing like deadly ribbons in the water. With immense effort, Tom began to paddle back to shore, towing the group behind him. The pain from the stings was almost unbearable, but his determination to save the tourists kept him focused. He could feel the jellyfish tentacles brushing against his skin, but he pushed through the agony. A crowd had gathered on the beach, alerted by the screams and shouts. Resort staff rushed to assist, bringing first aid supplies and calling for medical help. As Tom and the group reached the shore, they were met by concerned onlookers who helped pull them out of the water. Jessica was in critical condition, her breathing shallow and labored. The venom had caused severe reactions and she needed immediate medical attention. David, Karen, and Sam were also in bad shape. Their bodies were covered in painful welts, and the venom weakened their muscles. Paramedics arrived quickly and began treating the victims. Vinegar was applied to neutralize the jellyfish stings, and oxygen was administered to help with breathing difficulties. Jessica was placed on a stretcher and rushed to the nearest hospital, her condition critical. Despite his injuries, Tom stayed with the group, offering comfort and support. The ordeal had shaken him, but his quick actions had undoubtedly saved lives. As the tourists were taken to the hospital, he finally allowed himself to acknowledge the pain coursing through his body. The aftermath of the attack left a deep impression on everyone involved. Jessica remained in the hospital for several days, recovering from the severe effects of the venom. David, Karen, and Sam also needed medical care, but were fortunate to escape with less severe injuries. The beach at Patong Beach was closed temporarily as authorities investigated the incident and took measures to ensure the safety of future visitors. The attack was a stark reminder of the hidden dangers that could lurk beneath the ocean's surface. Tom was hailed as a hero for his bravery and quick thinking. His actions had prevented a tragedy, and the tourists were eternally grateful for his courage.